The third round of the FA Cup has proven that the magic of the tournament is still very much alive. However, after being humiliated by Man City, is it Avada Kedavra for Potter? Elsewhere, it was not a good evening for Aston Villa, who were also knocked out by League Two Stevenage, while Sheffield Wednesday beat high flying Newcastle on Saturday. There's plenty to discuss. Roll the intro. Hello, dear viewer/listener, and welcome to the Lost in Possession podcast. At the weekend, 8 Prem teams were knocked out of the third round, with more to follow. But there's only one place we can start, and I mean one place, and that was with Chelsea, who were humiliated by Man City 4-0, with the Blues putting in a performance that was, well, very much to be desired. Jordan, as a resident Chelsea fan, Jamie, we'll get onto you in a minute. As a resident Chelsea fan, we have to start with you. You must be sick of the sight of playing Man City. 3 games, 3 defeats, 0 goals. Plenty of calling for Potter's head. What do you have to say? The floor is yours.
Well, I'm not sick of seeing Man City. I'm sick of seeing football at the minute. We're an absolute mess. Let's be fair. Just in every aspect of the pitch at the minute. You know, we've got no attack. Our strikers can you even call them strikers? You know, our attacking players are scared of shooting. We've got an XG less than probably, a Sunday league side. Even in the midfield, we got on paper a great midfield who just aren't performing at the minute at all. We're losing every midfield battle every single game. And even our defence that we used to be built on sort of defensive, solidarity, even the defence are having a mare. And if the defence have a good game, then the goalkeeper will just let her go in for fun. So yeah, it's a tough time as a Chelsea fan at the minute, and it's depressing watching the game. Now look, the City result in isolation, did we expect to win with a weakened squad? Probably not. But I don't care whether it's City, whether it's, a lower league team, if you're going to lose, you've got to lose in the right way. And to get slapped 4-0 with an XG of probably less than 0.1 is completely and utterly pathetic. And we need something to change ASAP.
So what do you put this result down to? Do you put it down to the manager, or the coach in this case, who a lot of people are calling for Potter's head? Or do you think it's just, is it anything else? What do you think the situation is? How can it be resolved?
I think the FA Cup loss against City, I don't want to get too carried away with that because, on City's day, they're capable of doing that to any team, any small team, any big team. We rested the players. We've got, a World Cup winner, Alvarez, playing against a 19-year-old kid who's never played for us. I'm not going to lose my head over that game, but what I'm going to lose my head over is the lack of consistency we've had. 1 win in 7 games. One win in 7 games, and that win was against the mighty Bournemouth. I mean,
9,
just
by the way,
looking now.
George.
Huh?
9. One win in 9.
1 win in 9. Well, it depends if you count Champions League, but I think in the league it's 1 in 9, which is completely and utterly ridiculous. But yeah, our recent wins have been over Dinamo Zagreb and Bournemouth. So I don't think we've beaten a big side. I mean, I'm just scrolling down all the fixtures now. The last win against a half decent team was in October, away to Villa, and you could argue, we were lucky that day as well. So yeah, bottom line, we're a shambles. To answer your question, I think a lot of people are losing their heads and going, "Oh, sack Potter." But come on, what is it Potter's fault? We're suddenly losing games? No, Tuchel was losing games, hence he got sacked. We were in a really bad run under Tuchel in the short term. I think a lot of people's anger at Potter and people going, "Oh, get rid of Potter," is a little bit more, "Oh, we didn't want to get rid of Tuchel." But as a fan, you've got to be able to put the two aside. Yes, we sacked Tuchel too early. Everyone knows that. It was clear to Chelsea fans. It was clear to non-Chelsea fans. Tuchel's record as a whole, I think it was 3 trophies in a year and a half, 5 or 6 finals, just ridiculous numbers. but you can't use that to then dig out Potter. We've all said it on the podcast. People said it before he joined Chelsea. Potter is one of the sort of most underrated, high potential managers in world football, and everyone said that, and now suddenly, you know, 2 months later, everyone's retracting that because he's a Chelsea manager, and we've had a bad few games. So I don't think you can blame Potter for 100% of the issues. Obviously, you can moan tactically at decisions and all the rest of it, but the bottom line for me is that if you're going to get a manager like Graham Potter in, you're going to invest in the future. Give the guy some time. Don't just lose your head after a few games.
So just building on that, again, Jamie, we'll get to you because I know you're desperate to rub it in, but obviously Potter got the dreaded vote of confidence from the board today. What's he got to do, going forward, particularly in January? Because we need to understand these aren't any of his actual players. Cucurella, he didn't actually sign for Chelsea; he sold to Chelsea. There are rumours it looks like João Felix is going to be over the line. Do you think he's going to add, some much needed purr into your attack, or do you think, there's probably a player he's not wanted? What do you think's got to happen in this month?
I don't think there's anything screamingly obvious or anyone that's such an obvious buy in January. We're not going to solve all our problems in the transfer window in Jan. João Felix, we all know, world-class player, so much potential, and fundamentally, fundamentally, Felix is a good signing. Now, is he going to suddenly start scoring lots of load of goals? No. But to be honest, and I guess to push back on some of the rival fans, we're having a bad season. We're sort of the banter team this season, if you like, us and Liverpool. Even Spurs at time. There's so many big teams struggling this year. We're not the only ones, but we're mid-table, so we're definitely the worst at the minute. Despite all that, the fact that Enzo Fernandez wanted to come to Chelsea, the fact that João Felix seemingly is coming to Chelsea, let's not lose our heads. We're still a massive club. We've still won every trophy under the sun, and this is going to be a short-term problem, not a long-term problem. And I think that kind of brings me back to the point: why on earth would you sign a manager like Graham Potter, who's got a history of building projects and success in the long term? Why would you go and sack him after a few months? It would be honestly such a stupid decision to do that. And I think people sort of need to actually have a little bit of perspective and realize that give Potter time, give Potter money, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, so you're sort of telling Chelsea fans to calm down. Do feel free to give out where you sit in the season ticket place so they can all come and thank you directly for that.
Well, funny enough, a lot of the people are moaning are these Twitter kids with too many followers who don't actually go to a game of football and just sit there and tweet throughout the game. So by all means, West Lower, come see me. We'll have a chat.
Fair enough. And speaking of followers, do feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Feel free to leave a comment. It really helps with the algorithm. We do appreciate it. Anyway, moving on. Jamie, what did you make of the performance? Again, third game against Chelsea, third victory over Chelsea this season. Was it City were too good, or were just Chelsea that poor?
I just want to correct you. It's now the last 5 we've played Chelsea, 1 not conceded. So just to add that little bit in, just to
is that
not this season, but yeah, 5 in a row. It was a little bit of both, because the first 20 minutes, Chelsea looked okay. They looked like they were going to make a game of it, and looked like it was going to be a bit closer of a game like it was at Stamford Bridge on Thursday in the Premier League. Once the first goal went in, Chelsea didn't recover, and then Havertz tries and does his own version of Hand of God when there is VAR. So I honestly have no idea what he was doing, because if you let Laporte have that free header, there's still quite a high chance he doesn't score. So why he's done that is just ridiculous. And then after that, it was game over. Chelsea it's like you can say, Jordan sort of said, they've got quite a good midfield. They played obviously Gallagher, Mount, Kovacic and Jorginho. Like, They're very good players. Like, you can't fault them, but I don't know what their plan was. It just doesn't look like the tactics are. I don't know, like they're all together with the tactics and all as one, kind of like what you are seeing, like you've seen at City. Obviously, Pep's had much more time. You're seeing it you're seeing it with Arteta as well. There's the right philosophy and it's working, but once again, Arteta's had a few seasons. So this is where you could jump the gun and be like, Potter out, Potter out. Probably unfair, but when you look at the form and you look at Chelsea's recent record with managers, it's coming up to a sackable offence. Like the 1 in 8, 1 in 9, if you want to include 2 in 10 with the Zagreb win, you've also got the sort of big loss to the 4-1 to Brighton as well. You've got the 1-1 to Forest, and then the teams you beat were Zagreb and Bournemouth. It's like, if you don't go and beat them, just walk out the door, really, because both of them teams are just nothing. Like, you should beat them. It's the other games that I'd be very, very concerned as a Chelsea, because 6 out of the last 10, 6 out of the last 10, they've not scored. Like, that's a staggering amount. And I know everyone's probably seen it. Haaland's got more goals in the Premier League than Chelsea. That should not be happening with a big 6 club. Chelsea, like Jordan said, Chelsea are a massive club. That is like, that's not just below par. That's embarrassing levels, really. And there's no, like, I think Chelsea fans sort of like, was slight high was that Haaland didn't score against them at Stamford Bridge. That's all I could see after the game. That was the only positive they really took, which I thought was a bit. When you lose 1-0, it's not really something to be that disheartened about. Really, like, I agree kind of with Jordan what he's saying with the Tuchel. I think the Tuchel backlash is just hitting Potter. Really, it would have worked out if you had like an interim manager for this sort of period, that he took all the backlash. He wasn't expected to do much. Then Potter came in. I don't think he would be getting the stick that he is. However, it was something I wanted to put back to Jordan was Chelsea fans were singing Tuchel's name at the Etihad. Would you take him back now and not give Potter the chance? I think this is a difficult question, because I think it'd be unfair not to give Potter the chance, but I still think Chelsea fans would take Tuchel.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. There was chance of Roman Abramovich and Tuchel yesterday in the crowd. With Tuchel, and this is a big if Potter is given maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, and is proven to not be the success we think he will be, and Tuchel is still available then, yes, I'd welcome him back. I wouldn't, and it seems extremely unlikely anyway, but I don't think it doesn't make sense to now go, Potter, we're not going to give you a chance. We're just going to sack you off and then it just doesn't make sense. We all know, Tuchel's a great manager. He did well for us. And it's we have a habit, as we've seen, of rehiring managers. So don't rule it out. But getting rid of Potter now at this stage would be just an embarrassing decision and just wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, Tuchel maybe one day in the future. I certainly wouldn't say no.
No, that's fair. Like, that's kind of, it's sort of seeing the reaction of Chelsea fans. I think a lot would reactionary go, yes, give me Tuchel back. But like you said, sort of the start of the season wasn't good. It wasn't good under Tuchel. That is why he got sacked. I think Bowley wanted to also to have his own team. Bowley doesn't want to be Abramovich. Like, he doesn't want to just sit back and let Abramovich's people go on and do it. He wants his own people involved. So I did think Tuchel's numbers were down. Like, I think any sort of small down period, he was going to get the sack. So this is probably why, like you said, it was too early. with Bowley though, I don't know whether it's just rumours, but then you get some sort of it's more like the transfers. It just seems he's going here, there, and everywhere. It's not for a lack of trying, but is he not really going right? We need this player, this player, this. We need these positions, 3 positions. I'll go for them. It seems more like because you've actually got quite a few wingers, and I'd class Felix as a winger, maybe an attacking mid, but so it's more like
he can play CAM as well.
Yeah, but you need a striker, really. That's what you need because Aubameyang clearly is not going to be there at the end of the season.
No.
So then you got Havertz, and I still don't believe he's a striker. Maybe he's a cam, but he's not a striker.
Yeah, he plays a lot better when he's sat behind.
Yeah, so that's why I think you need a striker, and maybe you should do something like United are trying to do with this Weghorst. Like they're trying to get him on loan for 6 months. Like just something because you've got Nkunku. Is it
Nkunku? Yeah.
He's coming in the summer, so that gives you the striker. But like you need something for the next 6 months. Because
I think we tried that though. We tried that with Aubameyang and it's not worked. You know, we had Lukaku, didn't work.
Yeah.
It's not for the one to try on, but
I think like even Reece could probably speak about Aubameyang. Aubameyang came. He was meant to be Tuchel's sort of, guy, and then Tuchel was sacked 48 hours later, something stupid like that. So it's like, I feel like he does cause problems. He's not someone who's just going to be there to do a job. It's kind of like a Giroud would be quite a good player to have in that kind of role for the loan for 6 months, I think. But
yeah, I think just on Aubameyang, I mean, he's not the kind of player with those attitude, historical attitude problems. He's not the guy, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but he's not the guy rallying around a down and beaten squad in the dressing room. Thiago Silva is the kind of guy who strikes me as that leader. You got a guy with an Arsenal tattoo playing up front for Chelsea. Let's be fair, it's not ideal. And I don't see him, rallying the troops personally. And sorry if I'm wrong, but history and the evidence tells us he's not that guy. And just finally, look, I don't want to be completely 100% negative, and you've got to put things into perspective. You look at our injury list as an example. It's not an excuse. We should still be beating half of these teams that we've listed out. We've lost to, but if you look at our injured 11, it's probably the best injured 11 in world football. You've got Sterling, you've got Reece James, you've got Chilwell, you've got Fofana, 80 million signing. And N'Golo Kante, one of the best midfielders, possibly for the last 5-10 years. You've got you're up and coming. Loftus-Cheek was getting in the squad. Aubameyang's out, only for a couple of days. Mendy, Pulisic. Like that's a ridiculous team of players who are out injured. So it's one of those. Like we should still be winning. We should still be way better than we are. But you've got to look at the bigger picture. If that many good players were out, even for City, I still think you would see a dip off. If you took Arsenal's 11 and took that many players out, they wouldn't be top of the league. If you took that many players, if you took all that many players of quality out of the top teams, there would be a noticeable dip off, in my opinion. So you've got to remember that as well. But yeah, things need to change.
A few of them though have just got injured, and like I don't not like some of them you can use as the sort of what you're saying, but I feel like you can't mention Sterling and Pulisic really.
No,
they got injured on Thursday, so I think it's a bit too premature.
The main ones out of that, Kante, we've not had him for almost a year now. It's getting ridiculous. He's a different level, as everyone says.
I think it's Reece James and Chilwell, really. They're the two. They're the two.
Yeah, they're the big ones. And we saw last season when we were in a title race and suddenly they dropped off and we weren't. It's a different team without them, and that's bit of misfortune as well.
So there you have it. It seems like all of us here aren't blaming Potter, so that's good to know. I'm sure Dumbledore would be proud. But however, what are your thoughts, listener? If you think Potter should be sacked, if you think it's all Bowley's fault, if you think it's the squad's fault, whatever you think, make sure you leave a comment on our YouTube pages. Of course, feel free to tweet us, Instagram us, etc., etc. You know the drill by now. So that was probably the most notable tie of the FA Cup this weekend. However, there were a lot of other results that did come through, and there were some absolute shocking results in a good way for many teams across the football pyramid. Now, let's start, of course, with Stevenage, who definitely put the heart back in Hertfordshire with 2 late goals from Jamie Reid and Dean Campbell in the 88th and 90th minute, respectively, against Aston Villa, who were rather strong-sided Aston Villa, who went down to 10 men. The floor is open to either of you. What do we make of that? Is that a true FA Cup fairy tale right there?
Yeah,
absolutely. Like them getting a draw at Villa Park, that was sort of probably good enough for Stevenage. Like they want to go to these stadiums. They want to go to Old Trafford, Anfield, Villa Park, Stamford Bridge, Emirates, Etihad. I don't know what the top is. It just the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? You want to go to. I don't know what it's actually called. Is it New White Hart Lane? That's it. You want to go to them stadiums. That's sort of what you want, really, when the big boys come in, because it's just a great occasion, and that's what they've done. And then Donker getting sent off. They in the 85th minute, so it's not like they had plenty of time to have the extra man and go and do something. They held on in the game. They even scored with an offside goal early on to make it 1-0, which was ruled off was offside, but it wasn't much in it. So they showed they had something about them. But to go and get 2 goals like that, fair play to them. Stevenage doing well as well in League Two. Hopefully they can go and sort of, push for the promotion and use this as sort of we can compete at a much higher level.
That's the thing, do you think Stevenage, who've been doing wonderful under Steve Evans, they've got Stoke in the next round, who are beatable, it's at Stoke at the Bet365. However, do you think Stevenage fans would rather have promotion right now? Do you reckon they'll take promotion right now? Or do you reckon they'd rather the cup run?
Promotion, I think.
Yeah.
I know the cup run is amazing, but just one win makes that cup run already. Like that one win, even if they go and lose to Stoke, I think their cup run's happy.
Yeah, why not both? Why not both? They've beaten Villa. It's one game. They don't necessarily need a cup run. Like I'm sure those Stevenage fans that were there in 10 years' time will remember the time they beat Aston Villa, and that's the difference. Like it's about for those clubs, and even Prem clubs in some cases, it's about those moments that they'll always never forget, right? So even if they go out in the next round, they'll still have that time they beat Villa in 3 minutes. Like, so that alone is probably good enough. But I mean, if you can beat Villa at Villa Park, Unai Emery, like he's beat Bayern Munich in a cup tie in the last 12 months. He's beat Juventus, and now he's lost to Stevenage. Like, yeah, that's huge. But if Stevenage are capable of yes, an offside goal, scoring a goal, late comeback, obviously they're then capable of beating Stoke. So why not? Don't rest players, go all out for it, and just try and make even more memories. I don't think it'll affect their league form that much, personally.
No, that's a good point, and I think that performance by Villa yesterday was typical of a Unai Emery sort of team. They'll go and beat the big boys one week and then go and let themselves down the week after, and that's something that's shown quite consistently throughout his managerial career. That's not a criticism, but just how it is, and I think Villa fans will have to get used to that, eventually. But they should be disappointed nonetheless. But don't take that away from Stevenage. Let's move on then to the other big game that we also noticed, where Sheffield Wednesday, who played on a Saturday, despite their namesake, actually managed to beat Newcastle, mega rich Newcastle, and very ambitious Newcastle by 2-1, with 2 goals from Josh Windass. What do we make of that performance? Do you think Newcastle would be too fussed by that result, or do you think Newcastle fans would rather have had the cup run than 3rd place? What do you both think?
I think a cup run's important for Newcastle. They've got it in the League Cup, so they're not out of both cups. But they've not won a trophy in a while. They've got this money. They're playing very well. Like they've just gone to the Emirates and drawn 0-0 in what was a great game and a good performance from them. So to go out like this is disappointing. From I haven't actually seen the replays, but from what I understood, both goals were offside, but there's no VAR, so it doesn't count. So that's kind of where Newcastle fans will just be angry at VAR rather than their own team because, well,
I think it was one each though. To be fair, it was Sheffield Wednesday's first goal was offside, but Newcastle's goal was also offside, so it's one each. So it's not that bad.
Was the second offside as well?
No. Sheffield Wednesday's second was fine, so I don't think they can really moan too much about that.
No, but like it looked like they performed okay. They had 76% possession, 22 shots. Like Newcastle gave it a go. On a different day, they go and win. Sometimes it just happens. I've watched it when we lost to Wigan 1-0. Well, I've seen it in the final, unfortunately, but I've also seen it in like the fourth or fifth round. It's just sometimes it happens. But Newcastle have got so much to look forward to this season. It's a bad result, but it's not a season-ending result. Like the Chelsea one looks more like doom and gloom. Newcastle should just go, right, okay, we've lost one, dust it off, let's go, let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this game had a different vibe to it than what it was like last season when they lost to Cambridge in the third round. Everything Newcastle fans couldn't have been more, down if they tried, even though they had that takeover. This had a different vibe to it. I don't think Newcastle. Yes, they'll be disappointed they don't get a cup run, but let's be honest, they're going to start winning trophies sooner rather than later. I think for them finishing in the top four would be a more than amazing achievement for them for where they are.
But what trophies to counter that, I guess, a bit and disagree with you both. What trophies are they going to win? Because I disagree. Cup. Yeah, but why not go for the FA Cup? For me, I think it's a massive letdown.
It's just one of those games, though, isn't it? It's just one of them things. Newcastle wouldn't have imagined being in the top 3 of the Premier League this season. Most of them said they were going to settle for top 10. They're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup now as well. So they're already on course to be doing something. This is just a bit of a blip. They played a pretty strong side. It's just they were beaten on the day.
I think it's one of them where like if they're at the League Cup and then let's say they are where Chelsea are in the league 10th, that's when you start going like that's when you complain. I think it's been going so well for Newcastle as of late. I think they had them. I think they were unbeaten. They were unbeaten in something like 12, 15 games, something the record in the league at the time. So it's more they've got so much going well for them prior to that the FA Cup is you don't want to lose, but it's kind of one you just go, right, it's happened. It's one of them. It's just one of them days. Whereas if they were out of the League Cup as well, I think, then you go, we need to be trying to win a trophy as soon as possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's a result that's going to impact their league form at all. But for me, it's just a letdown. I guess the League Cup, I guess, does support that a little bit more, the fact they're still in that. But for me, this just feels like another wasted chance. You talk about Newcastle winning titles, they're not going to go and win the league this soon, right? So the cups for them is a real chance for them to go, right, we're here, we're going to start getting to quarters, semis, finals of these big competitions. And the big clubs do. We saw it last season, the FA Cup, Carabao, both big teams. City, how many Carabao Cups have they won? The FA Cup is very rarely. Exactly.
That didn't come instantly, though. That didn't come instantly. Newcastle, they're being very realistic. They know where they are at the moment. If you think where they were last year, most Newcastle fans aren't going to be expecting trophies now. If this was 5 years from now, they'd be disappointed.
Yeah. But to put it this way, I mean, would Newcastle rather have third and no trophies or fourth in an FA Cup? Obviously, fourth in an FA Cup because it makes no difference, right? Like that's how I'm looking at it in my head. I don't think an FA Cup run would hamper their league form that much. But Newcastle fans, let us know your thoughts.
Now, of course, there were plenty of other third round ties, sort of with teams up and down the pyramid. However, we are going to just read out what else happened with other Premier League teams involved. So, Man United overcome Everton on Friday night to win 3-1. Lots of negatives around Everton at this moment in time. Southampton managed to beat Palace. Harry Kane moved to within one goal with Jimmy Greaves' record as Spurs beat Portsmouth 1-0. Bournemouth were dumped out 4-2 by Burnley. Fulham got a result at Hull. West Ham beat Brentford in another all-Prem tie. And of course, Liverpool drew with Wolves. I think the final point here should definitely be focusing on that game. What do we make of that result? Should Wolves be furious they were disallowed a goal right there? Or do you think they should just take the replay? Or do you think they were better off, in their current situation, maybe not having the replay? What do you think of that?
The replay is awful for them. It just is in all aspects. Because if they're going to lose, let's say they lost 2-1 to Liverpool, they just go, okay, fair enough. We went away to Liverpool, lost 2-1. It happens. Like, the league's more important than staying up. But it's just not excusable. I'm sorry. Like, there's no reason you're at Anfield. It's one of the top Prem teams. There's VAR in play. How can it go wrong? Like, without even, I don't want to say it, but how can it go wrong without like some sort of corruption? Really? Because I'll tell you now, if that happened in the Premier League and it was the other way around, that goal would have counted. So there's nothing I can see apart from corruption that's stopping this goal counting, and Liverpool should be out. And now it's actually worse for Wolves because they've got to then play a game, reschedule another game, and it's just dampening. It's dampening probably the sort of the buzz they would have got off winning. That could have gone into their league form. It's making them play an extra game that they probably don't need now because they're probably going to lose the game at home. It's just the worst possible scenario for Wolves. I think they'd rather have just lost.
Yeah, this is a classic example of like when your luck's out. Your luck's out. Near the bottom of the table, you can't catch a win, can't catch a bit of luck. I mean, let's make it absolutely clear. This decision on VAR for Liverpool is disgusting, and just there is no justification for it. Oh, they didn't have the right camera angles. I mean, when have you ever heard that in a Premier League game ever? Didn't have the right camera angles, so they went with the on-field decision. You've got the referee. I don't know if you saw it, but as they scored, the referee is signalling to the lino to like put your flag up. It's a disgrace, and it's an absolute disgrace. And look, if this happened to a little league side, a League Two side, and it went in their favour, we'd probably be saying, great, it's the magic of the cup, right? But the fact it's Liverpool once again, it screams of something dodgy, and it's frustrating for everyone really, and harsh on Wolves.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I know there's a lot been made about the VAR decision. Lopetegui says he could see it on his screen, or whether that was, maybe his screen should be used in the VAR rooms. It was interesting to see that, yes, he said he could see it on the screen, but he never actually seemed to give an explanation as to why the goal should have stood. That's funny. That's quite a common thing with most coaches. They can all say it's on or off, but they never can actually explain why. I think they'll probably get a decision in their favour later on in the season. And before we do go, I do want to give one shout out to Wrexham. The Hollywood owners are continuing the Hollywood story. So full credit to them for beating Coventry. And of course, they have another interesting tie in the next round, if I'm not mistaken, against Sheffield United. Do correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, that's right. Huge match for them.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant for them. And there's none the reason why they can't go through too. Them and Stevenage might even meet in the final. We don't know. But anyway, that was the third round. Let us know your thoughts on how your team got on, and also what you thought of what we had to say. Jordan, it's over to you. Round it off.
Well, you did miss one more upset, probably the biggest of all. West Ham actually managed to win a game and get through to the next round. So congrats to West Ham as well. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.
Here we go.